Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be an eyeshadow palette collection video, and I don't think I've ever done one of these before. I do have 44 eyeshadow palettes, I believe, if I counted correctly, and this is all of them right here in front of you. It does spread to the sides a little bit. I'm going to first show you the top 5 brands that I have the most from, and then I'm going to go through the remainder in alphabetical order. But really quickly, pause the video and leave me a comment down below. What brands do you think that I own the most of? Because I was actually kind of surprised, and I'm just going to hop straight in and hope this video isn't a million years long. So no surprise, the top brand that I own the most from is ColourPop for sure. So let's start digging out all of these ColourPop palettes. So I recently just hauled the ColourPop Lilac You A Lot palette. I am so excited to play with this one. Something about it just speaks to me. This shade did come broken, but that's okay. It's not all over the place, so I think I can just kind of push it back in its pan. But these lighter, really cool toned purple shades just speak to me so much. I do have hazel eyes, but they pull more green, so I really do like wearing purple eyeshadow. The next ColourPop palette I see is the Zodiac in collaboration with Kathleenlights. I have used this a little, but it's just, I don't know, more of a tricky color scheme, I guess. I don't find it overly cohesive, but I do really love to use this as a companion to the Dream Street, also in collaboration with Kathleenlights. I think when you put these two palettes together, like, I really love this color combination. So this is more of a companion palette to me. It's not something I reach for on its own, which is kind of disappointing. But Dream Street is one of my top favorite palettes I have in my whole collection. I get a ton of use out of this when I'm not focusing on panning so many shades. And I love the colors in here. I really love the teals, which I was surprised about. And this bright shade here is really fun too. And this is just super unique, this duochrome kind of green shade over here. Yeah, this is a top favorite for sure. I also have the ColourPop My Little Pony palette. I have never used this. I got this gifted to me from a friend, and I think that these tones, especially these teal ones, do remind me of Dream Street, but I am really drawn to this palette as well. And lastly, from ColourPop, I did get this Semi-Precious palette in a Boxycharm. Haven't used it that much. It's 8 all shimmer shades, but they are pretty enough. I don't really want to declutter it or anything, but I definitely do need to show this one more love. So I own 5 ColourPop palettes. The second brand I own the most from, which I found really surprising, although maybe I shouldn't have because I got them all, every single one of them, in Boxycharm, and that is Pure Cosmetics. So the first one I have here is the Soiree Diaries palette. It has gorgeous white marble packaging, and I do actually have a pan in here from my Pan Those Eyeshadow series, just a basic palette. Then we got the Pure and Boxycharm Collab palette. I got a stain on mine. I can't quite get off. I don't know how that happened. This palette was pretty low quality. I do really like the Soiree Diaries, and I didn't really enjoy this one. These 3 peachy shades, we have a matte, a satin, and a shimmer, but on the eye they all look the same. Like, the shimmer isn't really that shimmery. The satin performs like a matte, and then the matte is obviously a matte. And then I was really drawn to this purple magenta shade, and it just looks light pink on the eyes. So this was pretty disappointing. I also wasn't too impressed with this Pure Midnight Masquerade palette. This is kind of a combo of eyeshadows as well as cheek products, and maybe you can see like Wyatt got into this and I wasn't even too upset with him, so that speaks volumes. These eyeshadows don't perform that great. The color you see in the pan is not the color you get on your eyes. They're pretty enough on the eyes, but it's not the color you are expecting, so for that reason, not too happy. These two might be great for deeper skin tones, but I use them as eyeshadows. Same with this one to an extent. It's pretty bright and the highlight is nothing special, so this wasn't a great one either. And more recently, we got the Pierre Festival palette, which I haven't tried yet. Oh, this is stuck right in there, so I'm going to leave it actually. There's a plastic covering on here. I wish that these pressed glitters were not in here, and I think I'd be more drawn to play with this, but I will still use it. I just haven't yet. So I own 4 eyeshadow palettes from Pure Cosmetics. The next 3 brands in my top 3, I own 3 from each. So first let's talk about BH Cosmetics. So I have the Carly Bible Deluxe Edition. This was a gift from my friend as well. I have actually used this quite a bit. I don't think I've played with the highlighters enough to really like know them that well, but I did really like the eyeshadows. They're great everyday shades if you're going for that more mauve or pink toned look, so I'm happy to have this in my collection. I have the BH Take Me Back to Brazil palette. I haven't used this yet. Again, this was a gift from my friend. It's just your standard rainbow palette. I've heard this isn't great quality, but I do want to try it for myself. And then another one of my favorite palettes in my collection is the BH Cosmetics Weekend Festival palette. I have used this so much. I am so inspired every time I look at it. I get so, like, this palette reminds me of why I love makeup, when your like heart races in an excited way when you play with an eyeshadow palette. That sounds so silly, but if you're a makeup lover like I am, which I assume you are if you're watching this video, then maybe you understand it, but this palette just speaks to me and I'm so happy that I own this. So those are the 3 BH palettes that I own. Another brand I own 3 from is Wet n Wild. Wet n Wild I no longer consider cruelty free, so these palettes I will be working on panning at some stage, but this is the old Comfort Zone, and I also have the old Walking on Eggshells. These are actually the 2 oldest eyeshadow palettes I have in my whole collection. These are the first eyeshadow palette purchases I ever made. Before that I just bought singles and did like one eyeshadow looks all the time. And the last Wet n Wild palette I have is Not a Basic Peach. Again, this was gifted to me from my friend. I've never used it before, but I do really like the colors, so I do want to give it a try and get some use out of it since it is in my collection. But again, Wet n Wild I no longer consider to be cruelty free. And the last eyeshadow brand that I own the most from is Tarte. So I have the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea Volume 2. This is more cool toned. I really love the packaging on these round palettes, and Boxycharm just keeps sending them. So I do have Volume 2 as well as Volume 3. This one is very light tones with only 1 matte shade here of the Rainforest of the Sea. And then I also have the Tarte Tartlet Toasted palette. I absolutely love the color scheme in here. It's just your standard warm fall palette. I love the way that this palette smells. I'm panning these 2 shades in this palette right now in various projects, but I don't find that this formula lasts on my eyelids all day. So it's not a favorite formula wise, but I do really like the color story. So those are the 3 Tarte palettes that I own. Okay, now let's go through the remainder in alphabetical order, I guess. That's how they were in my spreadsheet. So that's how I'm going to show them to you, I suppose. Except now I can't find anything. Okay, starting with A's. We have this Ace Beauté Grandiose palette. Again, came in a Boxycharm. Haven't used it yet. Really want to reach for it this month, actually. and into December for the holidays. I think this one will be really fun. From Alamar Cosmetics, I have the Volume 1 palette. I love this. This is so beautiful, especially in the summertime. The formula is really amazing on this. I love the packaging, and I'm still holding on to hope that we'll get Volume 2 in a Boxycharm at some point, because Gabby T. MUA, who started Alamar Cosmetics, used to work for Boxycharm, and they do seem to have a very close professional relationship still, even though she doesn't work for Boxycharm anymore, because we have gotten a few other Alamar Cosmetics products. So maybe someday we'll get Volume 2. The one and only Anastasia Beverly Hills palette I own. This is one that I was really surprised by. Obviously, I personally knew that I only owned one palette, but I thought that this would be a brand I would... It's really dusty. I thought ABH would be a brand that I would buy more from, but I just haven't so far. Oh boy, this is a recipe for disaster over here. But I do own Modern Renaissance and have used it quite a bit.
I found it.
Going into the B's, I have from Blink. This is the Electric Eyes palette. This is also a collab with Boxycharm.
See?
Oh, he's showing. Are you helping?
See?
See? Thank you for helping.
Nice and shiny.
Yes.
See? Nice and shiny.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big one.
It is a big one.
This one a black one. This one but purple.
Purple? Mm-hmm.
This one black.
And black, yeah.
This one white.
White. Good boy.
This one white.
Yeah.
This one green.
I really do love the shimmer formula in this palette. It's that thicker, like more metallic type of formula. He's kind of out of frame, you guys. He's trying to show you all the palettes that are over there. I'm really happy to have this in my collection. From Butter London, I have the Natural Goddess palette. Another one I haven't been able to test out yet, but I'm really drawn to these more earthy tones. Obviously the blue and the green catch my eye the most, and I've actually heard that they're not that great. So that's kind of a bummer, but I do want to try it for myself. Alright, we have Paw Patrol on as a distraction, so let's see if we can get this finished without any more interruptions. Next we have Crown Brushes. I have this Glam Metals palette. Really hate this black metal shade. I was trying to pan it earlier this year, but I actually do really like these more grungy, shimmery shades. So I've kept this palette around. And also from Crown Brushes, this is the Fuego eyeshadow palette, very similar to the Tarte Tartlet Toasted palette. I absolutely love this. I feel like no one gave it a chance. Everyone just passed it on right away because it is just your basic super warm neutral palette. If you own like the Urban Decay Naked Heat or anything like that, no, you don't need it, but I just really love these tones on my like greenish hazel eyes. Dose of Colors Marvelous Mauves palette. Really happy to have received this in my Boxycharm. I was going to buy this because of Samantha March anyways, and then having received it in Boxycharm was just extra exciting for me. I can't wait to play with this. From e.l.f. I have the Mad for Matte palette. This is just like an staple basic companion palette. I don't get a lot of use out of it, but I think it's nice to have. It goes well with those palettes that are all shimmers especially, and really great for beginners. From Huda Beauty, I do have the Electric Obsessions palette. I have had so much fun playing with this year. I've gotten quite a bit of use out of it actually. I really love playing with these really bright tones, and you guys seem to really love it when I post looks using this on my Instagram. This is probably the worst palette in my whole collection. This is the Laura Lee Los Angeles Party Animal. I thought I would be so excited to get this because it reminds me of the Urban Decay Electric palette, which I do not own. Obviously smaller, there's only 6 shades, but these are absolutely terrible. Like, the quality is terrible, and I just keep it around for reference for the worst colorful eyeshadows ever. From Milani, I have the Soft and Sultry palette. This was gifted to me by my friend Rebecca when I was her maid of honor in her wedding. I'm really excited to play with these cool tones. The only Morphe palette I have is the Kathleenlights Collab. Wyatt got into this. He dug out almost all of this shade. I tried to repress it in there as best as I could, but it's looking a little rough. I really do love this palette. I really do love this like mustardy shade here, this green in combination with these mauve purples. Love this palette, but I don't consider Morphe to be cruelty free anymore. So that didn't last very long. Wyatt is back. From Naked Cosmetics, I have the Urban Rustic Trio. I'm trying to pan the green shade. Love reaching for this pressed pigment palette in the fall. I get a lot of use out of all three of these shades. Really love it. Got it in a Boxycharm like most of my palettes. From NYX, I have the Ultimate Brights palette. I actually really do like this. I've gotten a lot of use out of the palette as a whole this year. Mostly this pink shade, obviously. I'm trying to pan it. They're not the most pigmented, but I think it's really good for beginners who want to practice with colors. I do like having the ability to build them up as I go instead of being overwhelmed with pigment. So I really like having this palette in my collection. I can't believe when I was talking about ColourPop, I completely forgot about the Sweet Talk palette. It was buried, so I have 6 ColourPop palettes, which I even had all 6 written down, but I forgot to show this one. This is Sweet Talk, beautiful peachy tones. Again, this one came broken. ColourPop has a long way to ship to me, so as long as it's not like completely unusable, I'm not going to bother asking them to replace it or anything like that. But I do have the Sweet Talk palette as well. That was so silly. From Pretty Vulgar, I have the Nightingale palette. This is the other really cool tone neutral palette that I have, along with the Milani one. And I've actually used this a decent amount and really did like the looks that I got with it. This is from Pierre Cosmetics, but Pierre with an E. This is like some random internet makeup artist. Doesn't really seem like a reputable website to be ordering from. And this is supposed to be a dupe for the Urban Decay Naked 3 palette. And I do have pan in this shade here. There you can see it. Not too impressive, but I am going to keep it around, obviously. This is the Sephora Pro Warm palette. Again, this was a gift. This is not cruelty free. I haven't really been saying the cruelty free status of all my palettes, but when I think of it, I've been mentioning it. I'm really excited to play with this. I haven't used this yet. This was passed on to me from a friend. So all the usage you're seeing here is from her, but I just really want to try this formula out for myself. These palettes are very, very pricey here in Canada. I don't know what they retail for in the US, but I think these are like $85 or $90 in Canada. So that's pretty expensive. They're not cruelty free anyway, so I won't be buying any other ones, but I would like to test this one out. Studio Makeup On The Go Cool Down palette. These are the more mauve tones again. Really like these shades. The cruelty-free status on Studio Makeup is unclear, so I have them listed as not cruelty-free in my makeup inventory, but I do own this. The Suva Beauty Protégé palette. I've only used this one time. I got this in Boxycharm last year. And I have it up on my vanity to get more use out of it this month. It's in my rotation. I think I'm going to especially get a lot of use out of these warmer shades here this fall. But I like that they have a warm highlight and a cool highlight. And like, you know, these 4 go together and then these 4 go together. I don't know. I just really like how thought out this palette is for easy everyday type of looks. I only own one Too Faced palette. This is the Chocolate Bar. This has long been one of my favorite just basic everyday going to work type of palettes. It's foolproof. I like the formula. No, it's not the creamiest, butteriest, most pigmented, whatever eyeshadows, but when you're just in a super duper rush to get out the door, a busy mom, a working mom, you like to sleep in and press snooze a bunch of times. I don't know, I just love this palette for that reason. From Urban Decay, I have the Gwen Stefani palette. This is what the inside of mine looks like. This was my very first high-end eyeshadow palette that I ever owned. I received this for Christmas from my mom, and it's a pretty boring palette, but again, it's great. A great like everyday kind of palette. It was limited edition, so you can't get this anymore. For my birthday this year, I asked for the Urban Decay Born to Run palette. I'm so happy I have this in my collection, but I haven't been able to get a chance to use it yet. I just open it every once in a while to look at it. The colors are so beautiful. I have swatched only one shade here because I couldn't resist dipping my finger in there, but I'm so happy with like all the warmer shades, and these blues and greens just speak to me so much. Thank you, Wyatt. Do you see this kid? Gosh, you're a troublemaker. Only 2 palettes left. From Violet Voss, I got this Essentials palette pretty recently in a Boxycharm. This is just a neutral palette with a couple pops of color, and I'm actually really excited to finally test out the Violet Voss formula. I know plenty of people say it's one of their favorite formulas ever, and this is the first Violet Voss palette that I've gotten my hands on. And lastly, this is from Winky Lux, the Kitten palette in collaboration with Boxycharm. At least it says Boxycharm on the palette, so I'm assuming so. And I actually really love this palette. I love these duochrome shades. I think they're so fun. Again, with these like plummy type of shades. This palette is a lot of fun, and I don't think it got as much love as it deserved. Weird packaging, but you know, still happy to own this. So those were all of the 44 eyeshadow palettes I own in my collection. I hope you guys like seeing a in-depth look at each and every one of these palettes. They were organized until Wyatt got in here, and then he kind of destroyed them. But let me know if you would like to see any other parts of my collection up close. And if any of these palettes are your favorites or not, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!